Hey there everybody, welcome to Hack That Funnel Radio. This is a very special episode. We're going to talk about what is the truth, the actual truth behind all these ideas like entrepreneurship and the 2 Comma Club and getting Facebook ads to work. What is the truth behind all of this? And to be absolutely honest, I'm not the one to tell you about it. The person who we're going to be talking to today is just a genius when it comes to making money online, being an entrepreneur, building a funnel, doing all these different things that everyone kind of has ideas about or is barely heard about. He's done it. He comes from a family of entrepreneurs. And not only has he done it, he's done it really well. He's made multiple marketing funnels that have made over $1 million. He has 2 Comma Club awards, but we're going to talk about what that really means. He comes from a family of entrepreneurs. We're going to talk about what it really means to be an entrepreneur. He is the essence of truth, and he just wants to talk truth, and nobody asks him the truth. This is such amazing episode. I wish I could have given this to myself when I got started. I wish I could have given this to myself when I first bought .com Secrets. I wish I had this years ago. This is one of the best interviews I've been able to cultivate, and I'm so stoked to have you guys on. So here's the deal. He's going to talk about the honest truth about all these things. I need you to lean in. I want you to start taking something out so you can take notes and really understand what it is about this online marketing system. Why does everybody want to start a business? Why does everybody think it's easy money? Why does everybody try to turn to a marketing funnel to be the answer? Why does everybody want a 2 Comma Club? Why is everybody wanting to go to Facebook to make their ads work? Why? That's what this episode is all about. On today's episode, we have Maxwell Finn. And Maxwell Finn is the creator of Startup Drugs, a t-shirt company built on Spotify that you can see. This is actually one that I'm wearing right now, is from him. I got this as a bonus when I joined his other business, Unicorn Academy, which is a part of Unicorn Innovations. He teaches people how to use ads appropriately. How do you use ads to build out your business? Now, from somebody who's made multiple millions of dollars using Facebook ads, this is the truth about how it works. This is the truth about how it all works. And I cannot thank him enough for being on. So once again, lean in, pay attention, and take notes because this is the interview I always wanted to listen to. And I'm so grateful for Maxwell for being able to be on. My number one question, just to let everybody get to know you if they don't know you already, is you have an entrepreneurial background that has launched you into social media and you've focused hard on social media. Can you tell a bit of that story so people know who you are and what you do?
Sure. So, I have a unique background in entrepreneurship. Most entrepreneurs I know that are successful are usually a first generation entrepreneur. They kind of started from nothing and they worked really hard and all that stuff. So I did that part, the working really hard part and being inspired. But I was lucky enough to have a dad and a grandfather and kind of generations of people to look up to that were entrepreneurs and that had gone through the process of turning ideas into businesses, growing them, scaling them, selling them, but also the struggles, right? So it wasn't all rainbows and unicorns for everybody. My dad had the biggest privately owned commercial real estate company in the world during the greatest recession that's ever hit our modern economies, which specifically hit commercial real estate the hardest. So, I saw a company that had 5,000 realtors in 55 countries almost go out of business in a few months because of that, and how that impacted my dad and the challenges of going through that and then coming back and eventually selling it after rebuilding it. For me, I've always known that this is what I want to do. I've always known that I'm not a 9-to-5 person. I can't, it's funny. I was just listening. Joe Rogan just did an interview with his most recent one is Edward Snowden. And it's absolutely killing. It literally has 4 million views already. It's been up for less than 24 hours. It's by far his most popular podcast. And listening to Snowden, he's just a crazy smart dude. And basically the whole part I was listening to is him talking about how he was just a terrible student. He terrible student because he just wasn't interested in school and he wasn't interested in learning biology from a 65-year-old who, never practiced biology and just has taught it for, 40 years. Right. I did very well in school, so I'm a little different than that. But when it comes to work and career wise, I was never interested in 9-to-5. I was never interested in going and working for somebody else. The concept of employment to me is an interesting one because it's the bargain you make when you work for somebody is I'm willing to trade freedom, flexibility, creativity, independence for security. That's kind of the deal you're making, right? And that's usually a pretty good deal for a lot of people, especially if how you value those things. But like after 2008 and 2009, I mean, it became very clear that's not like it's like an ironclad deal. It wasn't like a deal where it's guaranteed, right? Just like it's not guaranteed that we're going to have Social Security. And I know we're going down different topics here, so I'll pull it back. But like for me, I can never do that. I saw people that worked for the same company for 30 years, 40 years, just gave everything to a big company in the, the deal that they're going to get a pension, retirement, 401k and all that stuff. And it like evaporated overnight. Right. And so now those people are working, they're still working there, or they have people came out of retirement to go work at Target, or they work bagging groceries at Publix. And it's like these people traded basically their entire lives to live a life when they're retired. And now they can't even do that. So I just could never like just rationally just make sense. I would rather like beg, borrow, and steal and scrape by for years, but like do it on my terms than like make a decent income, work 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and not have anything in 30, 40 years when I go to retire. So that's really for me, like entrepreneurship has always been, it's been a no brainer. It hasn't been like a question of, even when things got tough, and there's plenty of times in my career where most of my, up until the last few years, it's been very, very challenging, and it's been, scraping by and just barely making it every single month. But I would never trade that. Like I would never in a million years trade that to go work a 9 to 5 and be more comfortable and say, okay, I don't have to worry about rent this month because I'm making this and the company's not going anywhere. But yeah, so that's really for me, like why I at least started this journey.
And you had this really cool view where you were able to see like your father and your grandfather kind of go through this emotional waves. Like for me, when I decided to be an entrepreneur, I was working a 9 to 5, and I was like, this ain't all it's cracked up to be. Like I got hired at a great company, they did all these different things. And the CEO turned to me at one point and said, don't worry, we're going to take care of you. You're fine. And I was just like, as much as I want to trust you, I don't want to. Like yeah. I can do this myself. And so I decided to jump off the train. And I didn't realize all the bumps and everything that was to come. I just knew it was going to come. And everyone just looked at me and were like, oh, poor pathetic fool.
Entrepreneurship is not for everybody, right? Like it's gut wrenching, and it's like being on a roller coaster permanently, even when things are going well. But again, I think a lot of entrepreneurs think the other way, right? So they look at it and they look at people that go to 9 to 5 or work 9 to 5s, and they're just like, oh man, like how can you do that? And again, I don't think there's a wrong answer, right? I think people are different, their goals are different, their aspirations are different, and so I used to get a lot of hate. You're wearing one of our Startup Drugs t-shirts. Like one of our Startup Drugs t-shirts was 9 to 5 for the week, and it's one of our best selling t-shirts ever. But the ads always got heated debate on it, even though people couldn't understand that it was just like, it's a joke, right? It's, nobody seriously thinks that because you work a 9 to 5 job, you're not like as good a person or a hardworking as a person, or you're less than. But yes, I think it comes down to priorities, comes down to differences, comes down to what you value and what you think is most important. And also comes down to where you're at, right? I think if you're even conceiving or on the fence about entrepreneurship, the time to do it is like in college, out of college, right? It's not when you're in your 30s or 40s and now you have a house and a family and stuff, because the risks just like the math changes, right? The risks are significantly higher, and the rewards now need to be significantly higher to justify it. And so I see a lot of people do that. They're like, hey, I'll go work a 9 to 5 and I'll save up money and then I'll start something. And I'm like, no, because what's going to happen is you're going to spend 5-10 years, you're going to make money, but you're also going to increase your cost of living. You're going to buy a house, you're going to get married, you're going to have kids. And then that plan is not going to look so good when you look back at it and say, well, I'm going to start a business now. Unless you do very, very well and you're able to just like, hey, you work at an investment bank or something and you save away, hundreds of thousands of dollars and move somewhere that the cost of living is much lower.
We live in a really cool time right now with entrepreneurship too. Like where if you are just hopping out of college or you're in the older generation, entrepreneurship is a cool thing. Like suddenly it's hopped on. It's like this cool thing that you got to hop on. You got to hustle. You got to do all these different things. Do you see that as continuing? Like we've talked about like where we think things are going to go and how kind of the economy just kind of swaying. Like there are things that are talking about. DNC's talking about breaking up the big corporate technology companies. And you've got all these different things going on. Do you see this still being a drive and moving forward?
We're at a point right now, which is really exciting because it's never in history has it been easier to start a business, right? The barriers to entry that used to be there to start a business are almost non-existent, right? So I talk about this a lot, like when I do lives and interviews and stuff. If you wanted to start a business 10 years ago, you want to start an apparel company 10 years ago, right? Clothing store. You had to find real estate. You had to buy like a great location. You had to lease, get into a long-term lease. You had to find apparel. You had to go to, manufacturer and get shirts made and printed and buy mass amounts of inventory. You have to go hire people, salespeople to work the store, to work the register. You need to have working capital. You need to have people to come into your store. There's so many things you need to have before you even open the door and collected $1, right? And then your overhead's massive. Now, somebody watching this right now, literally by the time we're done our interview, could have already started an apparel brand on Shopify with a few designs printed from one of the dozens of print-on-demand companies and have a Facebook ad up and running and selling t-shirts literally within the next hour. And that's a great thing, I think, for capitalism and entrepreneurship. I do think there are some negatives and drawbacks to it, right? So I think it's a great thing for a quality of opportunity, which is this is a big kind of buzzword right now. It's like a quality of outcome versus a quality of opportunity, right? So I believe really, really like highly in a quality of opportunity. I think we should work to level the playing field for everybody, regardless of where they live, what family they're born into, their income level, their ethnicity, their religion, their race, whatever it is. Like everyone should have the same opportunity to succeed in America or succeed in the world. However, what's happening is because it's getting so easy, people think it's easy, right? So there's this misconception of like, okay, well, it's really easy to start a business. So running a business and being successful should be easy. And that's not the case. So starting a business in 2019, way easier than ever. Being successful running a business and growing a business, probably harder than ever in 2019, right? Because there's all this competition. Because it used to be, but there's a few big companies. You look at like the media companies. Basically, 6 companies control 90% of all media. You have 6 companies to control 90% of media. You have one company that controls 96+% of search, basically information, right? You have these individual companies that control pretty much entire industries, basically monopolies. But when you have like thousands and thousands and tens of thousands and millions of companies all competing for the same customer, all of a sudden now it's almost the opposite of monopoly. You have monopolies, which are very hard to compete in, but then you have like the anti-monopoly where it's like just too many people competing. And what happens there, and this is what's very frustrating for what we do on the info product side of the business. When you have a monopoly, everyone knows who they're getting burned by, right? Like everyone hates their utility company or their telecom company or whatever it is. Like, because it's like, oh, it's AT&T or Bright House or Spectrum or Verizon. Like, they suck, right? That's usually the kind of thing. I hate my internet, I hate my cable, too expensive. But when you're buying things online nowadays and you get a crappy t-shirt or you get a crappy course or whatever it might be, like there are so many people selling that stuff, you don't know like who to blame. Right. And because you don't know who to blame, you don't know who to trust. So if you have a monopoly in, like right now we had option between Bright House and Spectrum and AT&T, and we didn't like Bright House and we knew we didn't like them, but AT&T came around and said, hey, listen, we got fiber, we got all this good stuff. So, hey, you look good. I trust you. Bright House sucks. Let's switch. It was an easy decision. But if there were like tens of thousands of internet companies all trying to sell me internet and they all had similar types of offers and the one company we had was unreliable and sucked, like, it would be much harder for me to switch to build trust because there's so many companies to vet. And so that's what's happening right now is there's so many companies, so many bad apples that consumers now are like, well, I'm just not going to trust anybody, right? Like they're all bad, even though that's not the case. So just back to the point of like, where we're at with kind of entrepreneurship and is this a good time? Should people be starting companies and going into entrepreneurship? I think it is, if you really are passionate about it, if you genuinely are doing it because you love the the freedom aspect of it. You love the control, the creativity, the ability to build your own future. If you are passionate about a topic, a subject, and you have a big idea, go for it. You should never let anything stand in your way. If you're doing it because you just see other people making tons of money on Instagram and you just want to have a Ferrari or Lamborghini and a big house, and that you think that's the path to do it, you're going to get crushed. You're going to get absolutely destroyed and spit out by the system. And you're going to be working a 9-to-5 job in less than a year. Because nobody sees the failures, right? Like, this is the big problem with social media. The biggest problem. If people watching this video can take one thing away from this video, right? If you're a new entrepreneur, it's this. Nobody in the history of Instagram or the history of media, right? Like new journalism and stuff, has ever said like, okay, let's showcase the biggest loser of all time. Like, let's showcase the most depressed person living the worst life, and let's broadcast that all over Instagram, right? Nobody does that. They're going to showcase the one vacation take a year that they went into debt for, and they're going to save those photos for an entire year and share those photos over the year to make it seem like they're traveling all the time, right? And that is social media. It's every single human being carefully curating and editing their appearance. And it works not just for like people in their social lives, but also for entrepreneurs. So you look at the example of like, well, Mark Zuckerberg didn't go to college, therefore going to college is for losers. Like, rich people don't go to college. Bill Gates didn't go to college, therefore I shouldn't go to college. But again, it's easy to highlight Zuckerberg and Gates because they are incredibly successful. They're some of the wealthiest people in the history of the world. And so, of course, that's one of the talking points is always going to be with them. Well, hey, they didn't do this and they became this, therefore there's a correlation between the two. And really there's not. If you look at how many kids drop out of college to pursue a startup in Silicon Valley, and the percent of them that are successful, I don't know I don't have the exact figure, but I would venture to say that it is low single digits. And that's being generous, right? But again, Inc. magazine and Forbes and Fortune aren't going up with their news cameras and their journalists to Stu. Hey, here's Stu. He left Harvard junior year before graduating to start his new billion-dollar company in Silicon Valley. And after 1 year, he imploded. The VCs didn't invest. Now he's back at home living on his mom's couch. Let's go to Stu. Stu, what did you think about this venture? Like, nobody's talking to that guy. That guy is off the radar. Nobody cares about him because he's living at home with his parents. And so you don't hear about them, and therefore you don't think they exist. And you just go with things you hear about, which are the successful people. And that's a big mistake, right? I think when it comes to college, like for entrepreneurs especially, I believe, and this is still coming from a biased perspective. I realize I'm biased here because I went to college and graduated from college. I still do believe that education is super important. I still believe that graduating from college is really important. And it might not be for the reasons that like people are thinking that I say it is. I think it's important from like just an esteem perspective, like accomplishment, right? Dropping out or not going and then failing, that's going to be something that's a burden over your life. Like, you're going to constantly be thinking about that. Like, I should have graduated college. And you don't want to have that, right? If you go to college and you graduate and you have a great experience there and you enjoy those 4 years of your life, which is a whole other thing people don't talk about, right? Is that college isn't just about like, you're not just going to get a degree so you can get a better job, right? That's what everyone talks about, like the price to value ratio of college degrees nowadays. That's one thing. But what people also don't think about is you don't get those 4 years back, right? Like, for a lot of people, college, like that 4 years, you hear about people all the time, like our parent generation, our grandparents, like, oh, college, like those 4 years, like it's probably the 4 best years of most people's lives. If you just cut that out and jump into the workforce, like, it is something people could regret, right? I'm not saying everyone's going to regret it. But I would also say just the final part about that, like, I wouldn't go into debt. So this is where I get into it's a very subtle here. I think if you had to take out massive student loans to go to college, I don't think I would do that today, right? I think there are better uses of capital. I think it's absurd how much colleges are charging for the value they're providing, just quality of education, quality of life, and everything like that. And I went to Emory University in Atlanta, and they have the highest endowment per capita, greater than Harvard. because it's built on the Coke fortune, essentially, the Goizueta family. So they have like $5 billion worth of Coke stock, and they're required to spend it on certain things every year. But like nothing got spent on students. Like I was fortunate enough to have college paid for. And so for me, like I think if you're in that perspective, like you have a scholarship where you're fortunate to have college paid for, like don't throw that away to just go pursue a startup only to realize that it was a lot harder than you thought, and you wish you actually finished school, especially if you're almost halfway through. Like if you're junior year, like don't just skip out a year away. It's a really silly move.
Yeah, so I totally agree. So I went to college, I went all the way through, and you learn something in college. You learn how to learn, and you learn how to be disciplined and just see the darn thing through. Even though you have all these messages calling out to you and all these big ideas, you watch all the big videos of everybody or all the movies of everybody leaving, their college experience and going and creating billion-dollar businesses. You see all these things, and you think you can do it. Just take a step back, do it as you're doing school, but do school and get school done.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah, I did it. I did it at the same time. I launched my first company. I started it this summer. I graduated in December, so I graduated early. I started it like late spring, the term before, ran it through the summer and then through the first term, and then graduated and then moved down to Florida to build our team down there. Like they're not mutually exclusive either. You can do them simultaneously, especially when you're just getting started and building the foundation.
Absolutely. Now, you've gotten two Comma Club awards now, or is it multiple more than that?
It's 2 right now. But I'll say one thing here, and this is listen, I love Russell and Todd and Dave, and I think they've done like incredible things. I think ClickFunnels is one of like the best case studies I've seen in community development and brand building and like tribe building. It's insane, like just absolutely incredible from a marketing perspective. The 2 Comma Club thing, right? And there's 2 up here. Also one of the greatest marketing campaigns ever. But when we got the first one for our Trump coin, this is almost like going on 4 years now. It's crazy. Like there was maybe 30, 40 people that had it, maybe less, right? And it was a very thorough process to like get it. It was more detailed application. When we got the next one for my first Facebook course, it got looser. Like it was basically just like our checkouts weren't even on ClickFunnels. It was, like basically if you had a landing page on ClickFunnels and you happen to drive some traffic there, but like sales are coming in other places, it's still qualified. And so I think that's unfortunately what's happened is now it's like basically they've realized that it's a great marketing technique, right? And they want to give as many people as possible because like even on my bio on Facebook, I say 2 Comma Club member, right? And I'll probably change that very soon, but it loses its prestige, and that's a very slippery slope, right? Like you build something and it has prestige and it helps you build a brand, and so you want to double down on and give more of it. But every subsequent Comma Club you give away, it makes it less valuable. And the original people who were like initially got it, building multi-million-dollar funnels and stuff, like they care less about it now because you have these people that are just like, aren't really selling $1 million of their product, or it's like very loose million. You don't know how they got the million. Like this is probably going to sound like a arrogant statement, but I don't mean it this way. Like it is not difficult to sell $1 million worth of something. And that sounds crazy, but like to do $1 million in revenue today with the tools we have is not challenging. I'm not saying you make money doing it, right? So like most people could spend $1 million to sell $1 million for the product, right? Yeah. So, or even let's take it a step further. A lot of people could spend, $1 million or send, $1.1 million to sell $1 million of a product. And so you don't see that. They never talk about like, well, do they actually make money with this, or do they just hit the $1 million revenue mark? And a lot of people don't know that. Like I saw the other day, I posted on Facebook about this, venting about just the continued BS I'm seeing with ads on Facebook pitching marketing education, and how, I've gone to the extent now where I'm calling it just fraud. I believe what I'm seeing like a lot of the time is outright, if you read the definition of like fraud, right? And what people go to jail for, Like a lot of what I see marketed would fit that definition. Basically you're misleading people with false information and lies for financial gain. That's really the definition of fraud. And so like I've seen so many ads where it's basically, become a Facebook expert in one video, or, learn how to make $1 million with this course. Like just fraud. It's a lie. It doesn't exist. One of the ads I saw was a YouTube ad, and then some kid who's like, couldn't be older than 17. And it was just a video of him showing his iPhone with his Shopify app open and just showing the 1 day sales, the 1 week sales, the 1 month sales, never talking about like actually what he sells, the value, how he got there, just showing off the numbers. And they weren't even a big number. It was his 1 month was $77,000. Now, again, like for a lot of people, that's a lot of money. But anybody, it goes back to the point of anybody being able to do this. Anybody could do a free plus shipping funnel and sell $77,000 of product and lose money. So you don't know if they actually lost money doing it, which is highly likely. But even if they were profitable, like let's say best case scenario, they net $10,000, $20,000, right? Like you shouldn't be teaching a course, right? It doesn't qualify you to teach other people. My first e-commerce store, you were one of the t-shirts, we hit a 6-figure run rate within 3 months, but I had no idea what I was doing, right? I just got lucky and had a good idea, but I was not qualified at all to teach. It took me another few years and running a massive agency, running ads for dozens of clients, spending tens of millions of dollars, selling tens of millions of dollars worth of product before I even thought about teaching and educating. And again, back to the 2 Comma Club thing. Again, nothing against ClickFunnels. It's not what I'm trying to say here. I'm just trying to say from the award perspective, like initially we were, and this is what a lot of people are doing now, like building things to make the award, right? Like your goal is I'm going to build this funnel so I can get a 2 Comma Club award. But we're just honestly like we're custom building things now. We're using software that's faster, funnels that are like we're building things that can last for a long time and scale. And frankly, at this point, don't care if it's not on ClickFunnels.
The 2 Comma Club is a great rapport thing, but you can use it wrong. Now, I do know of somebody who recently won a 2 Comma Club award, but their processor was outside of ClickFunnels, and so they denied them. They actually did deny them. So there might be some review that they're starting to do a little bit more.
Maybe I hope so. That would be great if they did.
Nice.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a big rapport builder, and so you can do it for the wrong reason, and nobody talks about the net revenue. And the net revenue is what matters. If you look at Rich Dad Poor Dad, one of the biggest reasons I got out of the industry or out of my 9 to 5 is because I would listen to Rich Dad Poor Dad during lunch, and I would listen to all of his books. I'd listen to everything, and I was just like, it's cash flow, and that's what it is in business too. You want to make sure you're actually making money, and it doesn't matter if it makes money in a month or in 10 years, so long as there's a cash flow that goes through it. That's what really matters, whether or not you hit your 2 Comma Club award. To be frank.
Yep. Yeah, it's not 2 Comma Clubs. It's not ROAS. It's not these metrics that don't buy you anything, right? You can have a 5x ROAS, but you can't go and buy a car with it. You can't pay rent with it, right? You need to have cash, and that's what really matters at the end of the day.
I think a lot of this episode we've been talking about, if we had to distill this down, we've been talking about what's been sold and what really is entrepreneurship. We've been what's been sold as success and what is true success. What are the biggest things that you see as an issue? Like when you talk to somebody, let's go into social media right now, because you do social media extremely well. You started on it back when MySpace was a thing, and then you jumped on Facebook when Facebook started to really grow. And so you've ridden that, and you've done an amazing job, not only doing well with yourself with creating multiple cash flowing funnels, but you've also created multiple success stories for larger businesses. Like you consult big businesses. So what's the real story on social media? Like everybody goes to it, aside from, we talked about being fake versus real. What's the real story as far as running ads on social media, I guess is the real question.
I basically break it down by there's organic marketing and there's paid marketing. And so organic, it's going to be a lot of content. It's how you interact on, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Snap, TikTok, all these apps. And there's the actual ad platform. So you're running, you're running AdWords, you're running Facebook, you're running native, you're running, pre-roll on YouTube. I think the there's a few pieces of advice that I can give, and it's tough to talk about these. They're such big topics, and you can go so deep into all of them. But for the sake of people watching and not knowing their experience level, I think the biggest mistakes I see people making right now is a real focus by most people that are newer on, I need to make things work day one. I need to make money day one. And I'm focused on that instead of actually building an asset, building a brand, building a loyal customer that has high LTV, which lifetime value. And what I can tell you is the brands that are still around, the companies that are growing the fastest. And if you look at the kind of brands of our generation in the last, 6 years that have grown the fastest and have exploded, now are $100 million, $1 billion companies, whether it's Purple Mattress or Casper or Dollar Shave Club or Harry's or any of these brands, Warby Parker, they all focused on brand, customer experience, repeat customers, lifetime value, product line expansion. Those are the things they focus on. And the way they advertise is totally different, right? So they're focused on creating ads that are engaging, entertaining, that have humor, have sarcasm, that do more than just push a product in your face. But what's fascinating with our industry and people that are starting new online businesses, dropshipping, print on demand, affiliate marketing, whatever it might be, they're looking, like the examples they're using to base their businesses on are not great examples, right? So they're looking at the $10 million a year person in the Facebook group or the ClickFunnels group, or these groups where it's like, yeah, the person's making a ton of money. They have really no overhead, and it's a very lean business, and they're personally banking a few $1 million a year. That's incredible. Like they're living, they don't run out of money. Like they're living a dream lifestyle. But what it comes down to, this goes back to what we talked about earlier, like passions and goals and what you really want to do. Like, do you really want to be that and have to keep working forever because the business is really dependent on you? Or do you want to build a Apple or a Nike or a Sephora or, any of these brands that Tim Cook at Apple is not like worried on a daily basis that Apple is going to make money that day. Or like Tim Cook could literally, and there'd be some issues, but like he could literally vanish for a month, and the stock price probably get hit because people are like, where's Tim Cook? But Apple would keep selling iPhones, they keep selling iPads, the stores would still be packed, right? Doesn't matter if he's there or not there for day to day. Now, long term, it would impact it. You need to have a really great CEO for companies like that. Mm. But like I'm more interested in looking at brands that have grown really fast and the biggest consumer brands that are the biggest marketers, and what are they doing, right? And if you look at how brands like Under Armour, right, how they advertise, you look at brands like Apple, how they advertise. I mean, there's tons of ads they run that aren't even promoting product, right? Like Nike, Under Armour, these brands, like they'll run ads that are just motivational, inspirational. I think Nike last year, a few months ago, they were running a ad that was like Serena Williams and a bunch of female athletes, and it was just them doing awesome stuff. And then at the end, just said like Nike, just do it. There wasn't a product in there. They didn't pitch a single thing, but I guarantee you that ad drove a lot of female athletes and enthusiasts into Nike stores to look at new products, right? And so if you're running a business right now, and I know it's not apples to apples, right? Nobody here that's watching has Nike-sized marketing budgets. So it's unrealistic to say, hey, we'll just start running Super Bowl ads and TV ads and radio and all these things and just like put money into brand building. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is you can take elements of that and incorporate it in direct response. So instead of just running ads where it's just like, let's pick a product, like we have a battering here. So you just have an ad and it's just like a basic image just showing a battering, and it says, Batman's battering with 3 bat emojis, only $99.99, link, buy the battering, right? Like super boring. Now I'm sure you'd get some enthusiasts, like somebody like me would probably just buy it instantly because it's cool. But like you can't scale a brand around that type of marketing. Right. There's no substance there. There's no brand there. There's no story there. There's nothing. And it doesn't differentiate you from anybody else selling similar products. So I guarantee you there are plenty of knockoffs of that product. And anybody selling anything, especially if you're an affiliate, if you're drop shipping, print on demand, it is a guaranteed fact that other people are selling the exact same product as you. the exact same product. And you can't compete on price. You can't compete on the USP, like the unique selling proposition. You can't compete on those things. As long as Amazon's out there, as long as it's easy to compete, you need to build a brand. That's the differentiator, is the story. Like, and then I know you had something to say, but just like look at the mattress companies. Like, I talk about this, is like a story I tell all the time. Like, in front of our apartment building, there's a 1-800 mattress, and we've been here for several years, and I have never seen a single customer in that store. Never. I cross it every day to go to Wawa to get coffee. I have never seen a customer in that store. Why? Because nobody in the history of anybody has ever wanted to go and shop for a mattress in a brightly lit, like luminescent light mattress store with some creepy dude in there. So why would Purple and Casper and all these brands come out of nowhere and launch a mattress company in a seemingly boring industry? And why are they able to grow and do hundreds of millions and billions of dollars? Because they took a boring product that was being sold using boring strategies, and they figured, hey, we can tweak a few things. We can make this cool. We can sell it to a different demo that feels like everyone needs a mattress. Right? Every single human being sleeps on a mattress, so they need it. So we know that there's a demand, but nobody gets excited about it, so we'll make it exciting. So Purple, we're going to pay the Harmon brothers $250,000. We're going to film these awesome videos showing plate glass windows dropping on the mattress with eggs. We're going to have funny stuff, and we're going to build a entertaining, educational, kind of edutainment brand that sells a really great high quality mattress. And we're going to have, we're going to ship it in a box to your door. We're going to give you the 100 nights sleep on it, turn it back. We're going to take all the risk out of it. And it works, right? It's not rocket science. There's nothing that they did that's really that innovative, revolutionary, but they did something that nobody else was doing, which is put some time into a brand.
This is genius. Where do people go to find out more about you? Do they go to your website? Do you want them to go to Unicorn IQ? Where do you want to send people if they want to learn more about you?
The easiest is just to go to unicorninnovations.com. That's our parent company. It owns everything. And from there, I think it has links to all of our courses, all of our social, all of our content, our Facebook group, free Facebook group, all that stuff. So that's probably the best place to go. Give people one link instead of 20 links to go chase things down.
Got it. So unicorninnovations.com?
Yeah.
All right, beautiful.
Dang, was that cool or was that cool, guys? I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, but I actually do something very, very special. After the interview is done, I actually record 2 more questions. Those 2 questions spark a whole new conversation, and I record those, and I'm happy to give you access to that. All you have to do is go to hackthatfunnelradio.com. When you enter your email address there, I will automatically give you access to every single interview's 2 extra questions and the conversation that sparks off of that. Go to hackthatfunnelradio.com to get your access now.